Hi, and welcome to the Focus on Eye Health Expert Series. I'm Jeff Todd, President and CEO at Prevent Blindness. Joining me today is Dr. Keith Smithson, an optometrist and sports vision specialist at Northern Virginia Doctors of Optometry. Welcome, Dr. Smithson.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
So you're a sports vision specialist. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and how healthy vision can improve performance on the field?
Yeah, so sports vision specialist is something that, I try to talk with my colleagues across the country about all the time. It doesn't mean that I do anything different than the rest of my colleagues do across the globe, other than I try to take a little bit more time when talking to an athlete to make sure that we're maximizing their needs as an athlete, not just looking at them maybe as a student or as an adult driving back and forth to work, but trying to take into account some of those athletic needs and meet those needs. So that's what sports specialty is all about. We're passionate about that and something that I have a lot of fun doing. So looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, it must be a fun career. Do you have any examples of people that you've helped with their vision who have where it's shown to improve their game?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a daily example at this point. I mean, this is something I've done for 23 years. I was an athlete myself. I played soccer through college. I've been around sports my whole life, and getting a chance to be on this side of it and helping kids and adults, achieve their athletic dreams is really a blast. So, I had a kid yesterday who comes in who's a high school football player, never had glasses or contact lenses on his whole life. I don't know how the kid is going to pass a driving exam in a couple of months, but there was no way this kid's going to perform on the field the way he's going to tomorrow after he got fit with his first pair of contact lenses. I mean, just such a cool opportunity. And, we see it even at the elite pro level. I mean, I'm the team professional doc for 7 professional sports teams. And we see kids that'll come in spring training in Major League Baseball that, maybe were, a Dominican player or someone who maybe doesn't have routine eye care that they get year to year. And it happens every year. You see a kid that's just not meeting his athletic potential, and lo and behold, vision's a big part of that. And it's a huge part of playing baseball successfully. So getting a chance to put somebody in their first pair of sports glasses or contact lenses at a young age can change the trajectory of their career. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So Prevent Blindness has declared September Sports Eye Safety Month. As an eye doctor, what do you recommend for athletes to protect their eyes and vision while playing sports?
Yeah, I think the first thing is any athlete, make sure that you're getting a routine annual eye exam, making sure you're seeing your doc every year, discussing the visual needs of the sport you play. A lot of times I'll meet with athletes that play a sport I'm not aware of. The world's taken over by this pickleball thing, right? I mean, that's the new big thing out there. And, cricket and some of these different games that maybe I'm not as familiar with. So I ask the questions, they may be the expert where I'm the expert inside this lane, but they're the expert on the court, right? So what does your game entail? Does it happen inside or outside? Is it in daytime or light conditions? What color's the ball you're looking at? How big is the ball? So those kind of questions, I think, help your eye care professional to direct you into the right type of eyewear, potentially talk about the safety of that eyewear, making sure that it's going to meet your needs, but also keep you safe out there. So making sure you're getting those annual eye exams and starting that communication with your doctor, and then leading on to the optician that can be the specialist in meeting the need with the right product.
So I have to ask now, do you recommend eye protection for pickleball players?
Yeah, so I mean, anything that can provide contact or the possibility for contact with the eye is an opportunity to wear eye protection, right? So I mean, the racket balls, to my understanding, are a little bit smaller and can get inside the globe, so they can be a little bit more nasty with the eye injuries that come from things like racquetball, lacrosse, things like that, baseball. But that pickleball, it's coming quick, but you also have doubles. You're playing with other people. You have, paddles flying around and elbows and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I think anytime eye protection can be put on, if it was a perfect world, every athlete I see would wear eye protection for every sport. That's the perfect world, but we know that's not going to be the case. But I think, yeah, it's definitely one of those we're having a lot of conversations about maximizing vision for the game, because it's a quick moving game, but keeping the eye safe too.
Yeah, absolutely. So this kind of leads into my next question. You mentioned you have several patients and from a variety of professional sports teams. How does eye protection vary from sport to sport?
Yeah, so I mean, every sport has a variation of different visual needs. So, I think this is where having that conversation with your athlete about the sport they play, again, can really help you meet their needs and help them maximize their potential. So, everyone wants to play their best. whether you're an adult, golfer, or, playing tennis with your buddies at the club, or, you're a youth, football player that's trying to play at the next level. So everyone wants to maximize their potential, but the visual needs vary across sports. We know things like baseball have, extremely dynamic movement. So you have a ball that's moving at quick velocity, that's changing direction. Visual acuity is really important in baseball. You have to be able to see seams and rotation on a ball. That's less critical when we're talking about, seeing a basketball, right? But basketball has something where there's a depth perception component. You have to judge where the basket is. You have to shoot appropriately, especially under fatigue. A sport like golf, which is very static versus dynamic, the ball is not put in motion until you put it in motion. So, reading the greens and having good contrast and the ability to, judge where that ball is going to move once you put it in motion is critical to that game. So, there's a lot of visual skills out there, and understanding the visual skills is your vision specialist's, opportunity. And then, maximizing the appropriate visual skill for that sport is really important.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about binocular vision, or people who have diminished sight or no sight in one of their eyes. Why is it important for them to focus on eye safety in sports or otherwise?
I think there's two things to that. The safety question is a good one. Obviously, if you have an eye health situation where there's, maybe early childhood trauma, or, something like glaucoma or an eye disease that's taken away vision from one eye, and you truly don't have the ability to see out of that eye, then protecting your good eye is what it's all about. So that's where you have to have the appropriate eyewear, making sure that, again, you're in a sport safe frame. We make a distinction between sport active frames and sport safe frames. Sport active frames could be a very appropriate tool for someone who's going to be a runner, a cycler. Maybe there's not going to be contact or the expectation of contact, versus a sports safe frame where there's going to be the potential for contact with an elbow, in basketball, or a ball in baseball or something like that. So then you have the ASTM standards. So we have things that are set out there. There's the F803, which is the safest sport frame that you can put together. So you have impact resistance. These frames are gauged on. So making sure that you're getting something that is appropriately safe for the sport you play. Then you have the lenses that the frames are made of, and all plastic is not made the same. So we have more impact resistant plastic than other. And especially if you're a youth, you want to keep those eyes safe. And that monocular case that you're talking about, where one eye is not functional, using something like polycarbonate lenses or Trivex lenses are a more impact resistant plastic than standard plastic. So if you think about your windshield being glass, but it's a shatter resistant glass, it's the same kind of thing. We're talking about plastic in eyewear, making sure that it's impact resistant for that sport. But I think there's another interesting part to that. You talk about binocular vision. Some of the things we get with our adult athletes is they'll come in and their doctors put them into something called monovision, where they have one eye that's corrected for distance vision and one eye that's corrected for near vision. And they do that, very effectively when they go to work and they look at their computer screen and they drive back and forth to work on the highway. So they do this with contact lenses. They might have done this with LASIK eye surgery or cataract surgery. But when you put them into an environment where you require depth perception, it's a detriment. So, it's an opportunity for a doctor talking about the sport interest of that patient to say, you know what, this might work well for you during the day, but when you go out with your buddies to play tennis after work, you might want to put on a different pair of contact lenses that give you distance correction in both eyes, because it'll maximize some of the depth perception that you need to play your sport, things like that.
Wow, I just learned something there. I have the monovision correction. Maybe that's why my tennis game is lacking.
See, you've been getting crushed every weekend for no reason, man. Look out.
Exactly.
You're going to say, who's the new guy?
So does wearing, or maybe it's just I don't play tennis well. I don't know. Does wearing sports eye protection impair vision? Or, excuse me, does wearing sports eye protection impair performance?
So if it's fit properly, there's no reason it would. There is the factor of wearing glasses where there's the potential, if the frame is fit improperly or it's the wrong frame, that it could have, side blockage of peripheral awareness. If you have a big bulky frame with, a lot of material over here on the side on the temple, you could lose some peripheral awareness over there. If you have a frame that's not fit properly to your face and it's fogging, that's a problem for certain sports. Obviously, we want to have the vision remain clear throughout athletic competition. So, but I think ultimately, if a frame's fit properly, there's no reason, that an athlete shouldn't be as successful in a pair of glasses as they would be with contacts. And, I had that situation today with a high school baseball player who came in needing correction for the first time. And we had the conversation. He wasn't, overly thrilled about the idea of contact lenses. Just kind of the anxiety of putting the finger to the eye and sort of doing this. But I said, look, there's no reason you're not going to be successful once we correct your vision, whether it be with appropriate eyewear or with contact lenses. So I don't feel in any way that he would have had a detriment one way or the other. So we let him kind of be the choice of how do we want to start, and we can put you in a pair of glasses to start with this. And if you decide later you want to do some contact lenses, we can shift and move on the fly. But there's no reason it should impact this performance in a negative way, not if it's fit right.
Yeah, and certainly, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we had to wear these big clunky glasses, and they've certainly changed over the years, and they're pretty stylish and fit very well now. So,
yeah, I think one of the things that we grew up with was the word sports goggles, and we tend to kind of avoid that because I think it gives the wrong connotation. So we say sports glasses because they really do look like glasses now, right? I mean, they're much more sleek and cool looking. And they can still be equally protective, but not have that kind of big goggly sort of look. So I think it kind of is a different word for some athletes to hear. And it does kind of open the door to, well, let me at least take a look at what that looks like. I don't know if I like the word sport goggle, but sport glasses sounds okay, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about athletes who wear prescription glasses? What are the best ways for them to protect their eyes while playing sports?
Yeah, I think it's multiple glasses. I mean, I've worked with my kids playing sports forever. I've coached, multiple different sports for years. And the first thing I would do, I mean, obviously you kind of have the ringer as the eye doctor over there on the sideline, but when you see a kid go onto a field with dress eyewear, meaning something that you would wear in a classroom, look, I would pull them aside and say, look, there are safer alternatives that your kid could be playing with. And, frankly, at that point, the kid has a better chance of eye injury by playing in a non-sport safe frame than probably playing without his glasses on. So, in that respect, I think making sure they have two pair of glasses. You can have a pair of glasses that looks, wonderful for going to class, but something that's more sports safe when you get out on the field of competition.
We often hear stories of parents struggling to get their kids to wear just regular eyeglasses. How can parents and coaches encourage children to wear the proper sports eye protection?
Yeah, I mean, I think, at this point, you can find, examples across the spectrum. You can find, NBA players wearing glasses. You can find Major League Baseball players wearing glasses. It's not something as sort of rare as it used to be. And I would tell you it's gotten more certainly more exciting for athletes even every year in spring training coming down talking about sports glasses. I think we did more sports glasses this year than I remember doing in the last decade. So there's not a fear factor. They look, again, very sleek and very cool. You can have different kinds of flash mirrors and cool looking tints and such in them. We can vary the tint in sport glasses to be more contrast enhancing so that they can be more specific. If you think about like a competitive shooter that might have 5 or 6 different tints that they use to shoot in different lighting conditions, that same thing's appropriate when you're talking about a baseball player who plays a game, during the day, then has another night game and a game under the lights. And you can have variations of different tints that can actually improve their ability to see the ball. So yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where, you find the examples, you put some posters up on your wall, or you find some people, you Google sports eyeglasses, Major League Baseball, you'll find 20 guys pop up and say, hey, look, this guy's pretty successful. He's playing at the highest level in the world. He's wearing some glasses that making a difference for him. So things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Are there particular sports where there seem to be more eye injuries than others?
Yeah, so officially I'm on staff with, every professional sports team we have here in Washington, D.C. So I was on the sideline last night for our NFL game. We cover all the NBA, Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball, NHL games. So I think classically it's the sports that don't have eye protection. So, in football, thankfully, we have a helmet, we have a face mask, and a lot of players actually wear shields. So whether they be clear shields or tinted shields, most of them clear, it's a safe space for the eyes because there's not much that can get through there. Hockey players have visors, but the NBA is a perfect example. You have, very tall individuals many times, their fingers are very long, and long fingers, long arms, and eyes don't get along very well. So things like that can be a problem. We see more injuries certainly in the NBA than I would say in an NFL season on average. just because the hands are moving quickly in directions that are very close to the eyes without protection being involved. So anything without a helmet, without eye protection, just tends to be the ones that have the greater opportunity for eye injury.
And what sorts of injuries do you see?
Yeah, so I think the most classic injuries that we'll see would be things like a corneal abrasion, essentially a scratch of the front of the eye. A lot of times a fingernail, unfortunately. So things like that. You can have fractured orbits. So the bone that the eye sits in can be fractured from an elbow or a blow to the face. We can have hyphemas, which is essentially a broken blood vessel inside the eye that bleeds in the eye, things like that. And then we have retinal detachments. Retinal detachments is a sort of shock wave that happens through the eye from the blunt force trauma that can actually tear part of the tissue of the inside of the eye. So, from the very early, infection, irritation, allergy issues that we manage day to day pre-game with an athlete who's rubbing and itching their eye that might need some drops that you have to use before the game, to something that happens in game from a finger, a scratch, or something more significant that might actually need, imaging and surgery. So it does happen.
So what about water sports? We know that wearing contact lenses during sports like swimming and diving and water polo can put users at risk, or swimmers at risk, for eye infections. Can you explain why this is and how they can protect their eyes?
Yeah, so a lot of times it's just simply the pool and the water that they're in and the type of bacteria that can be in the pools. So, there's obviously risk of infection anytime you come in contact with different organisms. But when you're wearing a contact lens, what that contact lens is a wonderful place for bacteria to live. So it's a soft, moist area. It's a piece of plastic essentially that is a wonderful place for bacteria to embed. And if you're wearing a contact lens that is a, let's say, 2-week or monthly disposable lens that you're going to take off, clean, and reuse for a 2-week or monthly cycle, it gives an opportunity for that bacteria to embed in the plastic and then over time embed in the eye and actually create the infection. So anytime we have competitive swimmers, and we've had competitive swimmers, divers, Olympic level, that have prescription goggles, that's an opportunity sometimes. Putting together prescription goggles. I just lectured with someone who had an Olympic athlete from France who had a significant eye issue that had to have prescription goggles made with a special tint for his light sensitivity, which was really cool. But there's also the opportunity with swimmers to use daily disposable contact lenses. So I think there's a conversation you would have with your eye care practitioner on whether or not that's a safe option for you. Wearing a daily disposable lens, meaning even if there is the worst case scenario, some bacteria in the water, that they're getting out of the pool, they're throwing away the contact lens after use. And so they're keeping that organism from getting into the eye or staying in the eye because you're disposing of the lens after competition. So things like that can still be a safe opportunity as long as you're doing it at the direction of your eye doctor.
Well, thanks so much for spending some time with us today. And before we leave, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share about sports, eye health and safety?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much out there. And I think, one of the things that we learned was that sports and vision, really tie together. And there's so many things that, that maximizing visual skills can be good for, right? So one of my passions, certainly as a doc and as a dad, is the visual skills of sport. And I think there's life lessons that come along with playing sports. So I want kids to be successful playing sports, not necessarily because I need them to get to the major leagues or I need them to sign $1 million contract. What I want them to do is learn the life lessons of sport, learn how to be a teammate, learn how to work hard, not give up. And if you're not successful at your sport, you tend to want to stop playing it. So, I don't want that to happen. And when we have people later in life, they want to continue playing sport because they want to stay healthy. They want to get out there and play their game. And again, if they're not successful doing it, they're not going to continue to get out there and do it. So I think maximizing visual skills, we know, can help people be successful at playing their game. We also have studies out there that say that it helps people stay safe. There are things that have said maximizing visual skills. There was a study done at the University of Cincinnati years ago on reducing concussion risk by up to 80% by doing visual skills enhancement for their athletes, making sure that they could see the blow coming and avoid contacts and things like that, that significantly reduce their injury risk. So I think the worlds of vision and sport are more connected than they've ever been. I started a company called Sports Vision Pros, which is a passion of mine. It's other docs like myself that work across the country with other professional teams. We're just passionate about getting education and information out there to athletic trainers, to coaches, to parents, to the athletes themselves. It's a free online global resource and a place where we feature new technologies in glasses, in contact lenses. We talk about injuries, injury management, performance enhancement, concussion rehab, all these things that really connect the worlds of sports and vision. So if you haven't been on, take a look at it, sportsvisionpros.com, follow us on social media. We have a lot of fun. We talk to a lot of cool athletes and they share their stories of what vision meant to them and their success. So it's kind of cool to hear from them directly too.
Well, thanks for sharing that information. And for anyone else interested in finding out more about sports eye safety, please visit the Prevent Blindness website at preventblindness.org. Thanks, Dr. Smithson.